On January 25, 2019, Cody Amato failed to show up to his job as a nurse anesthetist at Orlando Regional Medical Center in Orlando, Florida. This was out of character the ambitious 31-year-old medical professional who ordinarily arrived early, and it caused concern among his coworkers. They phoned Cody's girlfriend, who similarly couldn't reach the young man, prompting them to ask police in nearby Chuluata to check on Amato's house where he lived with his parents and younger brother. Officers responded promptly, arriving at the sprawling property at 9:17 a.m. and entered the property to find something far more horrifying than they could have possibly imagined. Upon entering the home, police first found 59-year-old Chad Amato, Cody's father, laying face up on the kitchen floor with a fatal gunshot wound. Officers then discovered Cody's body on a storage room floor, and 61-year-old Margaret Amato slumped over her office desk with an apparent gunshot wound to the head. Almost every member of the Amato family who lived in that home was dead. But there was one member of the family who was nowhere to be found. And after police officers tracked him down to a local hotel, they uncovered an absolutely bizarre sequence of events that precipitated the demise of Chad, Margaret, and Cody Amato. Grant Amato was the youngest son in a family of successful professionals working in the medical field. His father, Chad, was a clinical pharmacist, and his mother, Margaret, worked as an operations manager, overseeing medical coders. Following in their parents' footsteps, both Grant and Cody completed nursing degrees at nearby University of Central Florida, before attending nurse anesthetist programs, which Cody would complete, but Grant would not. With his existing nursing degree, Grant was still able to secure a position as a nurse at Advent Health Orlando. However, in June 2018, Grant was found to have improperly administered at least 8 bottles of the powerful sedative propofol to patients he believed were not being provided adequate pain management. As a result of this infraction, Grant was fired from the hospital and later arrested by Orlando police for grand larceny. Fortunately for Grant though, the hospital declined to follow through with pressing charges, and Grant was able to avoid conviction. After being fired from his nursing job and arrested, Grant found it impossible to find nursing jobs. This roadblock led Grant to pursue becoming a Twitch streamer, where he intended to play video games for a live audience who could show their appreciation by giving him small amounts of money through tips or subscriptions to his channel. Cody and Chad supported Grant in this effort, providing him their credit cards to help him purchase streaming equipment and advertising for his channel. But despite racking up charges on his father and brother's credit cards, Grant was not thriving as a Twitch streamer, rarely streaming, and making less than $150 each month from viewers. Instead of working, Grant slowly engrossed himself in the world of webcam models, women who stream to a live audience that pays them for conversation and erotic entertainment. Grant became particularly obsessed with a Bulgarian performer who went by the online moniker, Sylvie, spending hours with her nearly every night in expensive private chats that cost him hundreds of dollars or more per session. Over time, Grant developed a double life online, where he portrayed himself to Sylvie and the other men who paid for her company as a wealthy professional video gamer. In order to keep up this facade, Grant showered Sylvie with tips, and purchased her lingerie and toys for her to model in her online shows. Enchanted by the positive reaction he received from the beautiful model when he gave her money and gifts, Grant eventually believed that he had a genuine romantic relationship with the Bulgarian entertainer, which only fueled his out-of-control spending. In just a few months, Grant had spent over $200,000 of his family's money on Sylvie. When Chad uncovered the massive spending and confronted Grant about it, he admitted to how he had spent the money. This prompted Cody to pay for Grant to attend a $15,000 pornography addiction program at a luxury rehabilitation center. However, only a few days into a 60-day program, Grant chose to leave, later telling police that the staff informed him he did not have a genuine addiction. Upon returning home, an exasperated Chad Amato, who had committed to delaying his retirement to pay for Grant's debt, gave his son a list of rules that he had to abide by if he wanted to remain at home. One of the most important rules was that Grant was not allowed unmonitored access to the internet, could not have a smartphone, and was forbidden from contacting Sylvie. Returning home to find his fantasy world shattered took its toll on Grant, who eventually convinced his mother to allow him to use her phone to contact Sylvie. But when Chad learned that this had happened, he followed through on his threat, and ordered his son to move out. Strangely, Amato seemed relaxed in the interrogation room, and despite having his hotel room visited by a team of investigators, he never asked why he was being questioned by police. Police learned about Grant's massive debt and troubled relationship with his father. Amato expounded on these points, telling officers that he had been ordered to move out by his father, and that Cody told him, somewhat ominously, that he would take care of it.
Unhappy.
Right, and one of the stipulations was that he told him at the dinner was, if you speak to this woman again, you're out of the house.
When officers confronted Grant on his involvement with his family's murder, he feigned surprise and sniffled as he exclaimed that he hadn't murdered anyone, and that he imagined that Cody must have killed his parents and then turned the weapon on himself. This weak attempt at shifting blame to Cody was not unexpected by investigators who had studied the scene and concluded that it had been staged as a murder-suicide. Investigators determined that Cody's body had been turned over after his death, and that his holster had been placed on the left hip, which was not the correct side for a right-handed gun owner. But without a confession, police were compelled to release Grant until they could come up with more evidence. The most important clue that officers discovered was a thumb drive found in Grant's possession that had connected to a computer in the Amato home at 11:30 p.m. on January 24, hours after investigators believed that the murders occurred. Not surprisingly, this thumb drive stored over 500 images of Sylvie, the Bulgarian webcam model, in various states of undress. This key piece of evidence placed Grant in the home shortly after the murders and solidified his guilt according to the prosecution. Grant was arrested shortly thereafter. According to prosecutors, Grant Amato was so enraged by his separation from Sylvie and excommunication from the family home that he entered the house and shot his mother in the back of the head while she worked at her office desk. He then waited in the kitchen, and when his father entered the home, Grant shot Chad twice, killing him. Grant then used his murdered father's thumbprint to unlock Chad's phone, and used it to lure Cody over via text. When Cody finally arrived, Grant shot him dead in a storage room, and then planted the gun and holster on his body to make it appear as though Cody had committed the murders and then taken his own life. Despite all of the evidence stacked against him, Grant Amato maintained his innocence, pleading not guilty to 3 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. His defense pointed to the lack of compelling DNA evidence, and accused investigators of having tunnel vision and allowing their belief that Grant was guilty to paint their interpretation of the crime scene. But jurors weren't convinced, and on August 12, 2020, Grant Amato was found guilty on all 3 counts and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on each count. Grant Amato had become comfortable fabricating a fantasy life online. A life where he wasn't an unemployed, perpetually single, 30-year-old man who still relied on his parents to pay his bills. But when Chad Amato was tired of cleaning up the mess that Grant had made of his life, he made the fatal error of telling his delusional adult child, no. Grant Amato's actions serve as an extreme example of the lengths some addicts are willing to go to get their next fix, and highlights the importance of identifying and aggressively treating addiction to prevent severe acts of theft and violence. To this day, Grant Amato maintains his innocence. When asked, at his sentencing, whether he felt remorse for his actions, he told the court, "My family has been blaming me for months for ruining their lives, stealing, and not following the rules of the home, so I might as well be blamed for this too." Thank you so much for watching the whole video. If you had fun or learned anything, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, share. I know it's annoying to hear me ask that, but it really helps the channel and motivates me a lot. If there's a topic you'd like to see or learn more about, just leave me a comment under this video. Goodbye and see you in the following video.